Hey friends, Peggy Hall back with you to add some positive value to your life. Let me ask you, do you ever feel like time is going by too quickly? That happens to me quite a bit. And I used to be so frustrated trying to slow down time because I had so darn much to do, especially over the last several years as I've been working day in, day out, nearly all day, every day to help people live in freedom, push back against oppression and tyranny. I just felt that there weren't enough hours in the day. And what happened over the last few years is I unfortunately set aside a practice that I used to do with my husband, and I'm going to share that with you. And it's one of our ways that we have grown together in our relationship. And we also have felt as though we have been able to slow down time and make the most of each and every day. Now, this works for you, even if you're not married. If you don't have a spouse, you can do this on your own. Ideally, you will have somebody that you can do this with. So I'll explain. There are basically three steps, and I have a couple of bonus tips for each step. And if you have a friend that you could agree to do this exercise with, it would be fantastic. It would help you and it would help them. So this is what we call we time. And that's really a nickname because the full name is called you, me, and we time. So what that means is so you have two people and each person has the opportunity to talk about what they did that week. Now, normally hubby and I set aside a day a week, and usually on the weekends, just because that's when we have a little more free time. You could do it Monday morning, you could do it Sunday evening, you could do it Wednesday. I kind of like to do it at the end of the week or the very beginning of the week, just because that feels more structured and organized for me. And what I do is I have my calendar, and that really is, let me start with step number one, which is this: keep a calendar of your activities. Some people like me like to write in a journal, and you may write about your feelings, your hopes, your dreams, your frustrations, your aggravations, maybe memories. And sometimes it can be a little difficult to go back through the journal to pull out what it is you did on a certain day. So if you are keeping a journal, I also recommend that you still do a calendar, just a simple calendar. And I love to do a paper calendar with a pen. It engages the creative side of my mind rather than just doing something electronically or on my phone. So I love to keep a paper calendar, and I write down what I have coming up that week or the following weeks. And then I also write down what it is I did that day. And it normally is just in a little quick note. For example, if we ate at a certain restaurant, or I had a phone call with somebody, or I went to the post office, or I got the taxes done. I guess that's something I still need to do, or I got the laundry done, or any type of activities that I want to remember and notice and share in this weekly you, me, and we time. So that would be actually step number one, is to keep the calendar so that you have this in order to review. So it looks like this: on a time that we set aside, and we usually have, a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and we're very relaxed, and we know that we are going to be spending the next 20, maybe even 30 minutes doing our we time. And the we also stands for kind of the weekly events. So a review of the weekly events, but it also is we time because it's time that is intentional, and we are on purpose setting time aside to be together. We've been married for 25 years. And as any married couple, we've had frustrations over the years. And usually this had to do with, well, I told you I was going, or I didn't know that you had that appointment, or you booked it at the same time I was going to be gone. So when we set out this we time, it is an opportunity to go over the calendar together. And if you have children, of course, you can incorporate that. I think it's fantastic. But there are a couple of other parts to this. It's not just having a calendar and saying, what time is the dentist appointment? And, when are you going to get the oil changed in the car? There's more to it. That is where I find this helps me slow down time. So that's your step one. Now, the little bonus tip on that, what I've been doing lately is I like to do my own daily review of what I did that day. So while I'm in bed and I'm drifting off to sleep and I'm sending prayers of gratitude for another day of life, I like to go through my mind. In my mind, I like to go through what I did that day. So it would be, get up, um, say a few prayers, take my dog out to go potty, have a cup of decaf, prepare for the day ahead. So, and then I would go through every activity of that day. Truth be told, I often fall asleep before I get through the entire day in review, but it's a very pleasant way of falling to sleep rather than worrying about what's coming up. I can confidently go through the day. And if there's something where I felt maybe I didn't do my best or I wish I could have changed something, it gives me an opportunity to replay it in my mind and perhaps make a plan for rectifying what needs to be fixed or changed, or maybe there was something that I didn't get done that I wish I had. So for me, it's a very pleasant activity as I drift off to sleep. And as I'm doing that, another bonus tip for step number one is to really encourage myself with phrases such as, "Oh, that's so great. You got so much done. Wow, you really slayed it today." I know it's kind of a slang expression, which I normally never use. Um, I must be looking at Instagram or something. So, wow, you really got a lot done. This is an area where you really excelled, or here's an area where you can grow. So, I like to use that as an opportunity to review what I did that day. And this is part of how you slow down time. Because for me, time seems to run away from me when I can't remember, when was it that we went there? Where did we go on Tuesday? When did they call? That makes me feel just disorganized and out of touch with time, as though time is running by and I can't grab it. So when I have this opportunity to do my day in review just with myself, it's very, very beneficial. And at this stage of the game, it also helps me remember what it is I did, and I can enjoy it a second time. So let's say that I did have a nice lunch with my husband. As I'm going through my day in review at night, I can remember, oh, that was so fun. The food tasted so good. It was a beautiful setting. So it's not like I'm just racing through my life. This has been an absolute game changer for me. Over the last few years, with all of the hogwash, sadly, I did set this aside. So hubby and I decided that we were going to re-engage this weekly we time. Now, have a person that you can review at least weekly your activities with. It will help your friend. It will help you. Maybe it's a child, maybe it's a sibling, maybe it's a parent. I think it's really important that you have a person who is going to be of positive value as you do this. So rather than have somebody who's a complainer, who's going to criticize, who's going to make comments like, that's all you did, or why did you do that? That's not the person to choose. So I hope you will be able to identify someone in your life. And if not, just do that between you and God. All right. He's always there to listen as well. But it is wonderful to have a witness to your life and these things that you are going through. So set your intention that you will attract and engage the exact right person for this type of exercise. So we do that. That's tip number 2, is that you do this with another person. And hubby and I do this weekly. Here is another tip that I have for you for step number 2. Not only are you going to talk about everything that you did, and since it's you, me, and we time, one person goes at a time. So it's not like both of us are talking about what we did on Monday. So for example, if hubby begins, he'll go through his week and he'll say, on Monday, I did this, and Tuesday, I did this, and Wednesday, I did this. And here's the tip. Can you also talk about your feelings, not just your activities? How did you feel about what you did? Are you excited that that was something that you accomplished? Was it challenging for you? Do you wish you had done it differently? Is there a lesson that you learned in this event or activity? So adding in the layer of feelings. Maybe it's feelings about your relationship. Maybe it's just feelings about yourself. It is so beneficial to have a caring person who can listen and validate and not try to fix anything, but just be that listening ear that we all need. So that's the bonus tip for step number 2, is to talk about your feelings about these events, perhaps your feelings about the relationship. And I have found this personally an opportunity to reconnect and slow down time. So I'm not just racing through the week where it's a blur and I'm frustrated and aggravated and irritated. So this 20 to 30 minutes every week, in my experience, has given back more hours in the day and in the week. And I feel more relaxed, more confident, more organized. Just life feels more simple and free. And I think that's what we're all after. Step number 3. All right. So step number 1, keep your written calendar, and you do the daily personal review if you want to. Step number 2 is you do your weekly review with a caring person and talk about your feelings about those events as well. Step number 3, and this is what I really love, is to talk about the coming attractions. What do you have coming up for the week ahead? This has been an absolute blessing to our marriage because we have the opportunity to look at the calendar. Now, maybe y'all are far ahead of me. Maybe y'all have been doing this for years and I'm a little bit late in the game. But it has been so powerful for me that I wanted to make sure that I brought this information to you. And then I will also give you, I've got 3 tips under this heading for step number 3. So in the coming attractions, we look at the calendar, and again, one person goes and then the other person goes. And we say, here's what I've got coming up. I've got my dentist appointment. I'm going to have lunch with my friend. When it comes to me, it's like, okay, I'm going to be filming this video. I'm going to this exercise class, and we will go through it day by day. Here's why it's so fantastic. Number 1, there's no surprises when it comes to me and hubby. If it is an exercise that you're doing with somebody that you don't live with, it's still an opportunity for you to determine, wow, I've got too much going on. Maybe I need to take something off my plate. Or, wow, it looks like I've got a whole open day here. What is it? How do I want to spend this precious time so that you're not just frittering away your time? I have found this to be very beneficial for me. And I'm going to give you 3 bonus tips on how we use this coming attractions. So let me just grab my tips here that I have. The tip number 1, and this has also been so beneficial for me. I get a lot of invitations to speak, to do interviews, to participate in events. And I basically, most of my life have had a hard time saying no. I do have that people pleasing streak. I've done several videos on this channel about people pleasing and how you want to really create some healthy boundaries and think about doing things out of enjoyment and excitement, not out of obligation and dread. So I really have changed a lot of my people pleasing ways. And if I do something, I want it to be authentic with excitement and something that aligns with my values. I think I'll have to talk about values again next week. It's such an important and helpful aspect when you are making decisions, such as, am I going to agree to do this activity or not? So here's the tip. Number 1, I personally prefer a very short lead time on my activities. That means if I'm going to be scheduling an interview or a dentist appointment, well, maybe the dentist appointment I don't always have control over, but let's say a friend wants to get together for lunch. I like to plan it as soon as possible. I do not like to plan 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out. And here's why. I feel like I have something looming out ahead of me. It's just this imperceptible, oh, I've got that thing that I need to do in a couple of weeks, or is it 3 weeks, or is it 1 week? Even though it's in my calendar, it's just this object out in my future that maybe this doesn't happen to you, but in a strange way, it's almost like a distraction and a detour from what I'm focusing on. I personally would much rather say, let's have lunch this Friday. And then it's only a couple of days away. Then I'm excited. I'm ready to go. I've planned it. And here's another reason. When things get scheduled too far out in advance, there is a likelihood of it being canceled or rescheduled, or somebody deciding that they don't want to do it anymore, or that your schedule gets too full, or whatever else may happen. So that is a second tip under this category, is to always honor your obligations. Always honor your first obligations. If you have set a lunch date on Friday, and maybe Friday a week out or 2 weeks out or 3 weeks out, and you're experiencing that sense of, oh, when is that lunch? Maybe I don't want to do it after all. In my experience, I find that honoring my obligations is much easier. It's more rewarding. I have much less guilt and angst and anxiety than if I try to cancel. Here's another reason why honoring my first obligations works so well. If I know that I am absolutely not going to cancel, that I am not going to back out, that I'm not going to find an excuse, that something else isn't going to come along that I want to do instead, if I know that I absolutely 100% am going to honor that first obligation, it makes me think twice about whether or not I'm going to make that obligation. So if somebody says, hey, we'd love you to come over and do this thing 2 weeks from Saturday, and I'm thinking, I don't really want to go, but I agree to anyway. And then in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, how can I get out of this? That's a horrible way to live. I lived like that in the past, but for many, many years, I am free of that angst and anxiety and dread. And I only agree to what I absolutely am going to do. Of course, there are times you might get sick, your car might break down, your kids might get sick, they might cancel. Of course, things do happen. There may be a mix-up, but my intention is that I am not going to agree to anything unless I am going to follow through. So if somebody asks me about an event a couple of weeks out, I can honestly say, let me think about that and I'll get back to you. And then I can spend time in the we time looking at the coming attractions, determining if that's going to fit into my schedule, feeling about, is that something that I really want to do or not? And you have the right to turn down these events and offers and invitations without feeling guilty. The guilt is valid when you agree to something and then you back out, then you should feel guilty, but you certainly don't need to feel guilty at the front end. If somebody invites you to volunteer at a food pantry and you're thinking, I really don't have time to volunteer at the food pantry, I'm already doing this, that, and the other thing, you can say, thank you for asking, and I'm going to pass. That's all you need to say. You don't need to give a litany of excuses of why you can't do that. And oh, you wish you could, and you feel bad that you can't. Just be as simple and polite as possible. Thank you so much for asking. I'm going to pass. Hope you have a wonderful time. Tell me all about it. Trust me, that is much better than trying to talk your way in or out of something. So have a couple of those phrases ready to go. You could also say, thanks so much. Perhaps I can do it another time. Thanks for the offer. My schedule is full. Oh, I appreciate you asking. That sounds like so much fun. I'm going to take a pass this time. And then you go on and you say, have a great time. Let me know how that goes. Those are some phrases that you can have on hand. So when I combine honoring my first obligation and I combine it with scheduling it as quickly as possible, it helps me kind of keep time moving. And I also don't get stuck on these distractions that are too far out in the future. For me, too far out in the future is like a month. I look at my calendar a week at a time, and I prefer to, and you can't always do it. You might have a monthly gathering. You may have something that you, for example, we have our Q&A live webinar for the donors, and that is once a month. So that's not something that, I'm going to schedule closer or too far out, but that's a regular occurrence. So think about scheduling your activities faster, honoring your obligation. And then here's the final tip under this category. Tip number 3 is to pre-plan. That's probably redundant. Plan how you would like to feel and look and act in these activities, in these events that you have coming up. Let's say that you have a dentist appointment and you're a little bit nervous. So you can plan in your mind that you're going to arrive with plenty of time. You're going to do some deep breathing exercises. Maybe you'll close your eyes and pray. Maybe you'll bring along a supportive friend who will be there with you. So think about how you want to feel in these activities. Maybe you have something that you're dreading. You need to do some bookkeeping, or there's an email that you need to write to someone, or some type of activity that you may have been procrastinating on. I've spoken about the power of procrastination on this channel, so there are some tips for you there. Think about how you want to feel in these activities when you're having lunch with your friends, when you're working on some type of project. Do you want to feel organized, energized? Do you want to feel challenged? Do you want to feel calm? Do you want to feel adventurous, excited, powerful? Choose a couple of adjectives that you want to use and embody as you are doing these activities. And how you are acting, I want you to see yourself in your mind's eye. This is especially helpful for people who might feel awkward in social interactions. Maybe you've got a gathering coming up and you're thinking, oh, I'm not going to know anybody and I'm worried and I don't know what to wear. Start that planning in advance, what you want to wear, how you're going to look, how you're going to feel. And feelings are something that you can generate by choosing some empowering, encouraging thoughts, such as, I can't wait to meet someone new. I'm sure there's someone else that is looking for someone to meet at this event. I don't need to be, you can say to yourself, the life of the party. I can observe and enjoy myself by watching others. So give yourself whatever phrases would suit you in that situation. See yourself going through that in advance, calm and confident and relaxed and energized. You choose the adjectives and the feelings that you want to experience. I'm telling you, this is so powerful. I'll give you one extra little bonus tip. You can also do this for each day. You can do this in the evening as you're going to sleep. Remember, I like to do my day in review. And if you're still awake, if you don't fall asleep while you're doing that, you can think about, all right, what do I have going on tomorrow? Do I want to hit the ground running and feel like I'm running behind and I have to catch up? Or do I want to make sure that I'm up with plenty of time and I have a relaxed morning and I can prepare myself for the day ahead and I'm going to feel peaceful and relaxed and grateful for a new day of life? These are the tips, my friends, that I use to slow down time so that I don't feel that I'm running behind and my calendar is overbooked. I have an opportunity to say no to offers and invitations that may fill up my calendar too quickly. And I will honor my obligations and I will plan in advance how I want to feel, how I want to act, and how I am going to experience each day as a precious gift of life. Thank you for being on board, everybody. I can't wait to see you in an upcoming broadcast.